I'm going to look at a housing market update here in the Greater Lafayette area. As a realtor here in the Lafayette area, is one of the most common questions that I get. How is the housing market? And that's not the question that you guys are all really asking me. What you're really asking me is, how's the value of my house? And I get that. Here is a quick summary, and then we're going to delve into the details. Okay, so this summary is from IAR, the Indiana Association of Realtors. Home prices are rising fast in Tippecanoe County. A 40% increase in the median sale price over the last 5 years. There are fewer homes for sale, but that fewer homes is only a 2% drop. So let's delve into these numbers, and then if you want an answer on what any of these numbers mean for the value of your home, if you would like a value on your home, if you need to buy or sell, go to the LafayetteReal.com/YouTube, fill out that form, and I will get right back in touch with you. Because I am Geoff Gooch with the Russell Company, powered by At Properties, your local Lafayette real estate resource of choice. So we're looking at 5-year trends because I want to put it in the context of a little bit of history, and we can go back 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, but I think that for tonight's conversation, 5 years is a good chunk, because what was happening 10 years and 20 years ago is just so different and so disconnected from what's happening today. And quite honestly, what was happening 5 years ago, what was happening in 2021 is very different than what's happening in 2020. But it is good to put that in perspective. What are we talking about here? So first off, we're going to look at inventory. This is total number of homes for sale here in the Greater Lafayette area in Tippecanoe County. And the current number at the end of July of 2026, that's the day that we just wrapped up as we get here into the transition from the beginning of August to the middle of August. It was 406. It is up 143% over 5 years and up 25% year over year. And, you can just look at this graph for yourself and see that, we're over here at 406. And you can see pretty clearly that those numbers are up. But if we look back further, we will see that this is a case where the 5-year trend doesn't tell the entire story. I am trying to bring up one other thing for you guys. Just a moment here. Find for you guys to make this just a little bit easier. There it is. Thanks for your patience. Okay, so let's go back to this. 406. Now you can see that we've kind of kissed this amount over the last year. Back in October, almost a year ago, we were in that same range. So inventory builds as you get into the colder weather months. So you can see that it goes down and then it starts to build, and it goes down and then it starts to build, and then it goes down in the spring and then starts to build. We have more homes for sale. This is a good thing for buyers. This means that you have more choices in front of you at any given time. So if you want to go out and buy a house, you don't have to take the one that's in front of you right this instant. But that doesn't tell the entire story, because next off we're going to move to new listings. This is the number of new homes that came to the market in Tippecanoe County in July of 2026. There is 258. Now, that's a whole lot more than it has been over the last handful of years. We look back and see that we peaked out at around that, but from about July of 22 till call it April, May of 25, so the better part of 3 years, we were well below that number. We were bringing 100 or less homes to sale on average. And now we're north of 200. But if we look back to pre-22, we see these numbers where there are more homes for sale. This is a sign of us approaching a more stabilized market. There are more homes for sale. People were not selling their homes for any number of reasons, because of because of the rate lock-in from rates going up and people having an awesome 2% rate on their mortgage and not wanting to sell, but people having to sell because you always have to sell. You get a new job, you have a baby, you move, you get married, you get divorced, whatever that might be. And then it doesn't matter what your percentage rate is. If you need to sell, you need to sell. That's one of the factors. There's an acceptance of just this is reality. There are more homes being built, more homes coming on the market as the total market size increases. So more homes, new listings, 258, that is up 7% versus last year, but it's down 2% over 5 years. So that is a sign of us moving towards a more balanced market as opposed to the really hot sellers market. But we're not there yet. It's the sign that we're moving there. Next up, we're going to look at closed sales. This is the sales that got all the way to the closing table. You sign your name a million times, and then you own the home. And in July of 26, it was 180. Over 5 years, that's down 31. It's less than 200. And we're still up 6% over last year. So you can see that the numbers have just been absolutely depressed. Barely ever. Only once since it got below 200 in August of 22, and it did not again cross 200 until August of 23, but just. This is the first time since 22 that we have crossed the 200 threshold. And in May, it was only 199, so we didn't actually cross that 200 threshold, but we definitely kissed right up against it. And then we went to 220, but now we're back down. Just not the volume of sales that we have seen historically here in the area. And that is a testament to all of the things that I keep talking about. Rate lock-in, macroeconomic concerns, political concerns, but lack of new builds in the area. But that is starting. We're starting to see some signs of that correcting. Days on market. This is the number of days from the day that you list your home for sale until the day that you get an accepted offer on it. And in July, across all of Tippecanoe County, it was 18 days, which compared to what we've been doing for the last better part of a decade seems like an eternity. Check out the line here. This bottom gray line is 5 days, and it just hangs out here. Yeah, it peaks up a little bit here and there, but it just hangs out at 5 days. And that's all of Tippecanoe County. If you look at West Lafayette School Corporation, that line would actually be like kissing the bottom. So it takes a little longer. Buyers are being a little more, I was going to say a little more discerning. That's probably not quite right, but it's not quite the hot sellers market that it was even just a couple of years ago, just even last year back in 25, but certainly back in 24, where house goes on the market. Do you like it? Yep. Put an offer on it. See if you can get it accepted. Go into multiple offer situations. That's not happening. At the median last month, you had 18 days. That means if 200 homes sold, 100 of them went in 18 days or less, and 100 of them went in 18 days or more. So, of course, there's still ones that went lightning fast, but on the median, they were a little bit slower. And again, these are all data points that are, for the moment, moving us back towards a balanced market. Now it's a pendulum. We've been in a really hot seller's market. Kind of feels like time in memoriam now, but for a very, very long time, for the better part of 10 years, if not longer at this point. And we're starting to swing back towards a balanced market. Now, will that pendulum just keep on going and swing past balanced and go to a buyer's market where suddenly sellers are at the disadvantage? I hope not. I don't think that's good for anybody, but only time will tell. Right now, the data in the Greater Lafayette area is not spiking to say that is the case. Now, could that change tomorrow? Yeah, absolutely. That's not what it's showing us right now. Months of inventory. If nothing else came on the market, how long would it take to sell out of the inventory that we currently have? In July of 26, it was 2.6 months. That's up 16% year over year. But most importantly, over 5 years, that's up 216%. Check it out. 1 month of inventory, basically until we get to September of 24, just last year, which is just a testament to how quickly houses were selling and how few houses were coming for sale. So now we have the combination of two factors. We have more houses going up on the market now because more people are willing to sell, and we have buyers taking a little more time to make their choices. So the total months of inventory is going up. And again, I think that's overall a good thing. Is it a good thing if you're a buyer? Yes, it means you have more choices and a little longer to make your decisions. If you're a seller, is it as good? Just the raw answer is probably not. Isn't it better to put your house for sale on a Friday and have an offer on it by Sunday? Absolutely. But just because that's the way it's been happening for the last handful of years doesn't mean that's the best or only way, or that it can be, or the way that it kind of historically has been. So you shouldn't panic. Yes, it is not as great as it was from a seller's perspective, but it is still good. It is just approaching what we would have considered a little more on the normal side. Median sale price. Now, this is one that I really kind of want to dig into a little bit more here. When you talk to anybody about housing prices here in the Greater Lafayette area, in Indiana, in the United States, the topic is always, houses are so expensive. When are they going to come down in price? And my answer is always, they're not. For so many reasons I say that. First off, do you want a market crash? Do you want the value of your investment, of your asset to go down? Of course not. But do we want house prices to continue to accelerate so fast that it takes it out of the even possibility of somebody buying their first house? Of course not. We don't want that either. And so I've been saying that I don't want the housing market to retract and prices to go down. I just want the rate of increase to slow down a little bit. And I think that's what we're seeing here. Back in July of 2021, it was $215,000. Almost slightly more than $100,000 more. It's $318,500 in July. But if you look at this graph, it just kind of goes along building and kind of spiking out somewhere around spring of last year. The statistician can get in here and tell me it's somewhere between July of 24 and call it March to June of 25. Somewhere in there is where that statistical line kind of ends, and then it kind of starts to flatten a little bit. Now, that does happen. You can kind of see that in the data here where it spikes and then it flattens a little bit, and then it spikes and then it flattens a little bit. So there's a little sign of here's the spike and we've got the flatten a little bit. In another 4, 5, 6, 8 months, is it going to spike off the end here and grow again? The pattern says yes, but maybe this line just holds a little flatter for a little bit longer and gives time for the rest of the economy to catch up a little bit to the increase in home values over the last 5 or so years. There's a 48% increase, almost a 50% increase over 5 years here in Tippecanoe County, but year over year, it's 0%. It has stayed flat. So that means, all things being equal, you can buy a house for the same price today as you could last year, except we all know that's not actually the case because other costs have increased. Wages have not kept up. There are so many other things that drive down the value of a dollar. So while the raw price of a home may have stayed the same, your buying power has changed. When's the best time to buy? Yesterday. When's the second best time to buy? Today. It's an old tired but true, I was going to say joke, but statement really. And the next bit of data that we're going to look at is just price per square foot, and it just kind of backs up the total price. Just finish up with this one. It's gone up 38% in 5 years, but only 3% year over year. In July of 26, it was $191 a square foot. Back in July of 21, it was $130 a square foot. It hasn't increased quite as much as the total price has in those 5 years, but when you're talking about a data set of just a few 100 homes in a month sort of thing, a couple of big swings can make some changes in one column and not another. So perhaps one month you have a 5,000 square foot home as your biggest home, and then 2 other months it's a 3,200 square foot home as your biggest home. But the trend is the same, where it's risen and kind of peaked itself out somewhere between November of 24 and March of 25 and is flattened a little bit. And again, that's got to do with housing prices holding over the last year. It's also going to have to do with the particular mix of homes that are selling. Are you talking about a national home at 800-900 square feet? Or are you talking about a McMansion at 5,000 square feet? Are you talking about has the size of new builds gone up, gone down? I have to go look up those numbers, but I have a feeling that in Tippecanoe County, the size of new builds is actually held steady. And on the aggregate, I bet it's probably actually gone down because there's not been enough new builds here in Tippecanoe County over the last a couple of decades, really. And I think that the increase in square footage in homes that we were seeing was being overrepresented in the larger homes. And I think as new builds have started to ramp up a little bit more, those premium homes, let's call them, those luxury homes, are starting to be less of a percentage in the data set. And now we're seeing more of what would be a mainline home. And yeah, they're still perhaps big by historical standards. Again, a national home at 700, 800, 900 square feet, where, a starter home today would start at 1,600 square feet and go up from there. And on average, you're talking about 2,600 square feet. But again, we're really kind of holding steady on price per square foot. So how do we wrap all of this up into a nice little package at the end? It has been a hot seller's market here in the Greater Lafayette area for a very long time now. And the data is shifting and showing us that we are moving into perhaps a more balanced market where the buyers and sellers start to hold a little more equal power. What the long-term trends are remains to be seen. We'll take a look next time at some long-term forecasts and where that might be, but that can only tell you so much. We don't have a crystal ball, so perhaps we move into balanced territory and live there for a while. Perhaps we're just passing through that area of the graph and we're just going to go right to a buyer's market. I don't think that's the case. The local Greater Lafayette economy is really strong. We have a great manufacturing base. We have a burgeoning and growing healthcare base, retail, dining, all of education, Purdue University. All of these things means that our local economy is just really firing on all cylinders, and your local economy really has a whole lot more to do with your local real estate housing market than sometimes national and world factors can have on it. I'm not saying that they don't play a factor, but if you divided them up into a pie, you would get a larger piece of pie if you went with your local data. That is a look at the housing market here in Greater Lafayette here in August of 2026. If you would like to find out more details about your personal numbers, perhaps you have a home and you just want to know how much it's worth, what's it looking like in this market, perhaps you got a new job offer and you're thinking about having to sell to go pursue this new job offer, perhaps you got a new baby on the way, whatever that might be, go to the Lafayette Forum and I will be in touch. I'm Geoff Gooch with the Russell Company, powered by App Properties, your local Lafayette real estate resource of choice.